Hey, what's up everybody? Landon with LMR.com. We have a really good video for you today. We're gonna be talking about Coverlay's door panels for the 1992 to 1996 Bronco and Lightnings. Now, for those of you that are watching this and you have an OBS truck in general, yes, what we're gonna show and what we're gonna talk about will work for you as well. It's just that here at LMR.com, we kind of specifically caters to Bronco and Lightning. But speaking of door panels, you're gonna find yourself in a few different situations. Your factory door panels are completely gone. They're busted. You're gonna go chase a decent set of factory takeouts that you can kind of refurbish and clean up and repurpose, or you're going for the holy grail, which is a set of new old stock door panels. And most of the time, the majority of us out there, we don't want to pay people's asking price. So where we find ourselves is considering the Coverlay option for either the manual window or the power window OBS trucks. But for this video, we're gonna be talking specifically about the Coverlay door panels for power windows. So I know what you're probably thinking, what's the quality like? Well, that's tough to explain on video, and I get it. Pictures and video are only gonna do something so much justice. I will be the first to tell you that these door panels from Coverlay are a really good solution for those of you out there that just want to purchase a new door panel, get it installed, and keep on rocking. And I'm gonna kind of work top to bottom and explain all the features and attributes associated with the Coverlay door panel versus the OEM panel. So up here at the top, we'll have a pre-installed inner door belt weather strip. It attaches in a similar fashion as the inner door belt weather strip on a factory door panel. It's just, you'll find that it looks just a little bit different, but it functions the same. And of course, due to some differences from truck to truck, some of you may notice that the felt piece may not come in contact with the glass. It's this way on this Eddie Bauer Bronco, but as the glass comes down in its track, the weather strip does eventually start to make contact with the glass. So just keep that in mind. Again, that's gonna vary from truck to truck, and you'll hear me refer to that throughout the video because that's kind of the same case in point for all of this stuff. But up next, pretty small, we have the opening for the door lock rod. Jumping over here to the front upper corner, this is a problematic area on the OEM door panels. They'll over tighten this screw, and what'll happen is that screw will pull through, and that section of the OEM door panel will basically crack and pull away from the main section. Up next is the trim applique area. All Coverlay did was just kind of mold that feature into the door panel. You'll notice on some trim levels, and specifically this Eddie Bauer Bronco, there is a secondary metal trim applique that gets situated right here. I didn't even consider transferring it just because I kind of wanted to keep things simple, and this does work and it does blend with the rest of the door panel. Moving on down, we'll have a generic piece of fabric. All this is doing is taking up some of the space and some of the void to break up the plastics and stuff like that. This by no means is designed to be an exact match to an XLT truck, to an Eddie Bauer trim level. Again, this is just here to fill the void. Beneath it will be a padded armrest that's actually really nice. It's very firm, it's not squishy, and then it does replicate the OEM armrest pad, although the back area is just slightly different along with the front. It's more of kind of a blunt nose, whereas the factory armrest pad has more of a sharper point. This door panel does accept the OEM or a factory style switch bezel. And then over here in the speaker grill area, this is also specific to Coverlay. This will be different than what you're going to find on the OEM door panel. Moving on to the middle section of the door panel, we'll go over here to the rear. The OEM panel will have a cubby that you can store some things in. The Coverlay panel does not. Over here at the door handle, Coverlay is going to use some just generic felt to act as a dust seal. For those of you that are picky, before you install the door panel, you may want to put some black tape, some black fabric, whatever the case may be. Adhere that to the moisture barrier, because when the door handle is lifted up, it rolls that felt inward and you can kind of see some of the door frame. So for those of you out there that are kind of picky about that, again, before you install the door panel, cover that area with a dark colored material. Black is probably gonna be your best bet. Okay, continuing on, the courtesy light. This is completely optional. You can transfer this from your OEM door panel, or you can leave it alone. If you leave it alone, I would remove the bulb and carefully position it inside of the door panel. Just make sure it's gonna be clear of the window. But Coverlay molds this section for those of you that do want to transfer the courtesy light. As you can see for this Bronco, we went ahead and did that because we wanted to show you everything that is involved with this Coverlay door panel, and transferring this courtesy light is not hard at all. And then over here at the front lower section, you will have a cubby to put some personal items. It's just on the Coverlay door panel, you don't have the divider. It's just all one single compartment. And then at the very bottom here, you'll have the carpeted material that does simulate what's on an OEM panel. What I did like about the Coverlay door panel is I didn't have to use as many attaching screws to secure this to the door panel, just because the 3 that I did install, I mean, this thing's pretty firm. I mean, it's not going anywhere. And speaking of those screws, you will have to put new holes into your door frame. These down here do not align with any of the existing holes. So when you do that, you want to run your drill on a slow speed. Make sure that screw starts its hole. Don't just go hammering it down, because it's going to push the door panel away. You run the risk of cracking it and all that stuff. But once you do get the screw started, finish it with your Phillips head screwdriver. Don't hammer that screw in with your drill, because I'm telling you, you're gonna crack your door panel. And speaking of screw locations, back up here at the top, I was able to reuse the factory location for this upper screw. As far as the grain and texture goes, it's very close to the original. It's not exact, there is some slight differences. Once the panel is installed, you'll notice some gaps between the door panel and the door frame. That's probably gonna differ from truck to truck, just because these panels are trimmed by hand. And then up here at your B pillar area and your A pillar area, the coverage isn't quite as exact as the OEM panels. So you'll see some rub and witness marks in these particular areas. If that's a concern to you, do your best to clean them up with like a all-in-one polish. And then if it's severe enough, you know, you may have to use some touch-up paint. As far as the back is concerned, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's the back side of a door panel. You'll notice the spots for the push pins and kind of some of the areas that they use to fasten the felt, and some of the pieces like the armrest base and stuff like that. Coverlay does provide their own hardware with their door panels. The only thing I don't personally prefer are the number 10 screws that they send to attach the lower sections of the door panel to the door frame. If you plan on installing moisture barriers and jute padding, I would purchase the LMR moisture barrier and jute padding kit, which will come with the OE style number 8 screws that you need for this area, along with the OE style screw for the door cup. You will use the long screw that Coverlay provides for the front upper corner. Okay, stuff you need to know. Well, we have a removal video for the door panel. We'll leave a link to it down in the description. All right, when doing this, think of other things in the area, okay? The moisture barrier, jute padding, run channel weather strip, window motor, window regulator, door lock actuator, cable, handle, and even some SVE sound deadener. All right, people, it's a lot of explaining. So we're gonna jump over to the installation steps now and walk you through what it's gonna take to install a Coverlay door panel into your OBS truck. With the door panel removed from the vehicle, go ahead and clean up the frame with an all-purpose cleaner, our waterless wash product, and microfiber towel. If you plan on transferring the courtesy light, place the factory door panel on a workbench. Remove the courtesy light housing from the factory door panel by drilling out the spot welds. Use an 1/8 inch bit first, followed by a 1/4 inch bit. Clean up the housing and then either file or sand down the leftover spot welds and locating tabs on the back side. Go ahead and clean up the lens as well. Take some measurements of the opening in the factory door panel and transfer these measurements to the new door panel and mark the area. Drill the corners and the hole for the tab on the lens. You can also drill one large hole in the center if you prefer that method. Then use an appropriate cutting tool to cut out the marked area. Carefully deburr the edges with a file. Test fit the housing and enlarge the area as needed. Due to the tight tolerances, you may need to file down the housing just a tad for it to fit better within the cavity. Once you like the fit, clean up the area. Apply some adhesive designed for plastic to the back side of the housing. Be careful not to get too close to the edges so the adhesive doesn't squish out whenever you apply pressure. You also want to be mindful of the amount of adhesive. Don't just goop a whole bunch of it on the housing. Use it sparingly, but make sure there is adequate coverage. Rig up some weighted device to keep pressure on the housing. Use some common sense here and don't use anything that may cause damage to the panel. Give the adhesive adequate curing time. Remove the weights. Flip the panel over and dry fit the new jute padding. Spray one side with spray adhesive or pick the attaching method of your choice. Whatever you choose, just follow the instructions on the box or the can. Adhere the jute padding to the door panel. I chose the cutout for the push pin as my alignment area. Run your hand across any areas that make contact with the door panel. Wipe the door frame with a prep spray and install the moisture barrier. Now you can install the door panel. Hold the panel up to the door and install the courtesy light socket into the housing. Feed the electrical connections for the door locks and windows through the opening followed by the door handle. Make sure the door lock rod passes through the opening and that the inner door belt weather strip is situated over the top edge of the door frame. Align the push pins and carefully seat each one. Use the screws in the install kit and start at the rearward bottom corner. Run the drill at a slow speed and ensure the screw penetrates the door frame. You may have to reverse the screw and then go forward again until it cuts threads. I would run the screw down by hand and not with the drill as you run the risk of cracking the door panel. Repeat these for the other 2 screw locations, which are located underneath the cubby. Align the screw hole in the door cup and fully tighten. This is the screw that doesn't have the floating washer. Now you can install the long screw into the front upper location. Gently pull the panel back and align the screw with the existing screw hole. Then run it down until it just starts to get snug. You don't want to over tighten this screw. If you're replacing the switch bezel, go ahead and remove the power mirror switch if equipped. Depress the tabs and push it out of the bezel. Clean it up with a dry cloth and a soft brush. Be careful with cleaners as you run the risk of damaging the lettering. Install the switch into the new bezel. Install the new clip onto the tab that was provided with the bezel. Back at the door, gently lift the existing switches with a plastic pry tool to remove them from the switch panel. Once removed, wipe the switch panel with some electric parts cleaner. If desired, shoot some air into the connections on low PSI to blow out any dust and debris. Install the new switches into their corresponding locations. These have a small locating dowel so you can't install them the wrong way or in a different spot. Connect the battery and check for operation. Disconnect the battery and continue. Position the switch panel into the new bezel and install the screws. Reconnect the electrical connections. Test fit the bezel and see if you need to remove some material from the door panel. Turns out, we'll need to remove a little material, but be careful as you don't want to damage the slotted area where the clip gets installed. I held the vacuum to catch any shrapnel and cut away a little bit of material. Remember, you can always remove more, but you can't put it back. Test fit again and do some more trimming if it's needed. Align the speed nut and then fully seat the bezel. Install the retaining screw, but don't over tighten. Snap the courtesy light bezel into position and then check over your work. Repeat these steps for the other door panel. After that, you're good to go. All right, everybody, you made it to the end. Like I said, it's tedious stuff, but it's easy tedious, if that makes sense. Like I said, just work in a slow, methodical manner. You know, take your time, pay attention, look over everything, and I'm telling you, this installation is gonna go a lot smoother than what you're thinking. As far as the quality goes and how it's gonna match with everything, this matches pretty dang good in this 1996 Eddie Bauer Bronco. It has about 100 and I think 50,000 miles, give or take, somewhere around there. But the medium mocha does blend pretty well with the aged medium mocha here on the dash, kick panels and stuff like that. Good point to mention, depending on the age and the sun fade of your particular OBS truck, there could be some pretty vast differences between the Coverlay door panel and other areas in the truck. If that's the case, check out the interior paint on the website. That way as you progress with your truck or your project, whatever it is that you're doing, you can kind of spray some of these surrounding areas and get your interior back to tip-top shape. Hope y'all enjoyed this one. Feel like we kind of put it all out there for you. That way, again, you can make a good, educated buying decision. And if you find value in what we do, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications. And until we see you in the next one for all things OBS Bronco, Lightning, and OBS trucks in general. Keep right here with the real enthusiasts, LMR.com.